Cheers, y'all.
Well.
That's the sound of a party right
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this fine radio program, podcast, and video extravaganza known internationally as the world-famous Smokin' and Toastin'. Welcome to the show. It is show number 246. We are all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars, and the people who love them. I thought we should add that.
And the people who love them.
Right, because that line always gets
We're
added.
here for the people.
Yeah, well, that line always gets added. It's for men who love to go outdoors and camp, and the women who love them. So for us, it'll be about craft beer, fine spirits, hand-rolled cigars, and the people who love them. And that would be us. Welcome to number 246. Our program is brought to you by MyCigarShirts.com. Great shirts on the web for cigar lovers all over the world. Be sure to check them out because they are a fine sponsor of the show. MyCigarShirts.com, because
cigars.
Yes. So welcome to the program. It has been far too long, and I say this in all seriousness, it's been far too long since we had one of our favorite guests on the show, and he's back today, Mr. Chris Hart. Welcome.
Thanks for having me back, guys. It feels like it's been a minute.
It's been too long, actually. The last time we had you here was like in the middle of the first COVID wave, right when we started doing the show.
I think
again.
I was unvaccinated the last time I saw you.
Yeah, I think we all were, and now we're all feeling a little bit better about sitting within proximity.
We had
to
a
each
moment
other.
on your show a while back.
Yes,
too.
we did.
I think
That's
that was
right.
the actual last time.
We've had a number of moments on his show.
What does that mean? Number of moments?
Well, I just mean memorable things have happened.
Gotcha. Yeah, sure.
When we've been on your show.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, every time I come here, it feels as comfortable and as relaxed as being with you guys on a porch somewhere smoking a cigar. Like it's your family. I'm happy to be here.
Love to hear that.
And that's. I wish we were sitting here smoking a cigar.
So do I.
But we're getting back to that. By the way, we just lined up our next show at the Rainbow Lodge, which is where our wine expert Mark Burrell holds court, and Mark's going to have us all set up out on the back patio. So here on Smokin' and Toastin', as we talk about craft beer and fine spirits and hand-rolled cigars, we now have a number of experts in different areas and fields. Liliana, for example, is our tequila expert. Mm-hmm. We want to talk tequila. We need to get the skinny from somebody that knows. Liliana's our go-to. We have,
Chris Morris doing
God
mixed
love
drinks.
him. He's our cocktail specialist.
God love him because no one else does.
That's right. we have our legal expert Trey Boring, and we have our whiskey expert Mr. Chris Hart. And let me just say, we're not the only ones who refer to him as an expert.
Oh, Lord, here we go.
No, I'm just saying.
Just curious, who else has referred to me as an expert?
Texas
Texas
Monthly.
Monthly
Oh,
for
that's
one
interesting.
thing.
publication.
That's interesting. That old rag.
And as much as we like teasing you, I mean, seriously, you know as much about whiskey as anybody that we have on the show on any kind of regular
I'm looking
basis,
down at the comments. Just before you say too much, I want you to know that Alan Denny is watching.
Oh, good. Well, that's good to know.
Good old Alan. He's probably sitting at his lounge, Galveston Cigar. I always forget if it's Galveston Cigar Company or Galveston Cigar Lounge, because all they did was change one word, and of course they changed the whole environment.
It's lounge.
It's lounge.
Yeah,
it's lounge.
it's lounge.
But I love him to death. Shout out to Alan Denny.
Yes.
But yeah, so as far as expert goes, it's interesting. There was a great national group, bourbon group called Someone Say Whiskey, that someone posed this question, and it's interesting. I've always noticed there's a phenomenon around being okay with someone calling themselves an expert, or being okay with hearing someone refer to you as an expert, because in whiskey in particular, there's so much knowledge, with spirits in particular, there's so much knowledge available online. Mm-hmm. You quite literally could become an expert by simply using
by just
Google.
reading. Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And
well,
whereas in the medical field,
right.
if people tell you became an expert using Google, people would laugh in your face.
Yeah, but those people are still practicing too.
I don't want the doctor Googling the surgery before he cuts me
it's
open.
It's okay. I watched a couple videos.
Yeah. Have you seen YouTube? It's great. You can learn anything.
I know exactly
on there.
how this appendix works.
Yeah.
What you say is true. I mean, Liliana Rodriguez, our tequila expert, still kind of like
cringes.
Bristles a little bit when we call her an expert. She wants to be called an aficionado. I'm like, well, I'm an aficionado because I love it. But I wouldn't call myself an expert. She knows so much more about it than anyone else that I know personally. So as far as I'm concerned, she's our expert.
Yeah. So and here's the thing: when it comes to spirits, you can have an expert in distilling who doesn't know jack shit about the history of the product or how sales or marketing works. You can have an expert in sales. You can have an expert in marketing, an expert in branding. There are a whole list of options to be, and no one covers all of them.
Right.
However, what we are essentially all really calling ourselves are subject matter experts. The broad category of expert is really I don't know of. I remember one time one of the legends in the industry, Eddie Russell, or Jimmy Russell, both thought that I believe it's one of the common tropes with bourbon. I forget it at the moment, but let's just say he thought that bourbon had to come from Kentucky, and that's
to truly be bourbon.
To be called bourbon had to, and that's simply not
not
legally true.
Yeah.
It's never been true. But it's one of those things where it's like, oh, you can be an expert in distilling, you can be an expert in maturation, you can be an expert in marketing and branding, but you're not going to cover all your bases. So I think people just wince at it. We're all just subject matter experts of specific reigns within the category.
Well, my dad, who is the king of dad puns. I mean, nobody.
Is he an expert?
He's an expert at dad puns. But he used to say that an X is a has-been and a spurt is a squirt under pressure. So that was his opinion of the so-called experts whenever one would come on TV or something like that.
A spurt.
One of my CCSD brothers just put it in the comments, if you need a BS expert, he knows one. This guy.
No, I think we got that covered. I think we're good with that, yeah.
This guy has the gift of gab more than almost anybody I've ever known.
Who, the guy you know?
The guy.
Well, I will say this. I've learned a lot about whiskey from you, from having you on the show, from drinking with you, from listening to your show.
Sure.
So you can learn a lot about whiskey from a guy like Chris. And a lot of things I learned about whiskey, I learned at the Whiskey Social, which there's another one coming up.
Oh, yeah.
We'll talk about that as well on the program today. Speaking of things we're going to talk about, we'll be tasting some whiskeys because Chris, never shows up empty-handed, so that's always appreciated.
I brought a couple of wild cards today, something outside the norm.
Ian also brought something from his whiskey collection. We will be sampling a Talisker 10-year single malt, so looking forward to that.
Classic malt of Scotland.
In the beer category, and by the way, tomorrow is International Beer Day, so we'll be beginning the celebration. We'll think of today as International Beer Day Eve, and we'll kick off the celebration, hopefully, and then sometime after midnight is when Distilling Santa arrives in his sleigh and slides down the chimney and leaves beer on everybody's kitchen counter. That's what we're hoping,
That's Brewing Santa.
That's Brewing Santa. Okay. Oh, sorry. What did I say? Distilling? Yeah. See, I don't even. This is why I can't be an expert.
They're brothers.
I can't even get something like that
You're
right.
an aficionado.
Yeah. We will be tasting some interesting beers today. I was up in the Dallas area last weekend for my niece's wedding.
Me too.
And really?
Yeah, last week.
I didn't see you
Wait,
at
you
my
were up
niece's
there for
wedding.
his niece's wedding?
I didn't see you there.
I wasn't up there for your niece's wedding, but we were there in Carrollton for a few days, trying to decompress before school started.
I hung out in Sanger, Texas, which was about 30 minutes from where the...
that just sounds like a Texas accent.
Doesn't it?
He's a sanger.
He's a sanger, yeah. Wait till you see him play
He sings both kind of music, country and western.
And wait till you see him play the guitar. I was in Sanger, Texas, at a little Airbnb that my wife found up there, which was very nice. And it was about 20 minutes, I guess, from the chapel where the wedding took place. And my brother, who lives up in that area, he said, "Where are you staying?" I said, "It's a little place in Sanger." He goes, "Oh, they have a Fuzzy's Tacos there." So, and this is how you chart different, different geographic areas in the greater Dallas-Fort Worth metroplexes where there's a Fuzzy's Tacos. So I visited the Fuzzy's Tacos a couple of times.
That's kind of how I know where civilization is. My wife wants to live in the middle of nowhere. I'm like, look, if we're not within 20 minutes of a Walmart, we're just
you're too far out.
Yeah, we're gonna be miserable. We'll be good for about a week, and then we're gonna be murdering each other.
Well, anyway, so while I was up there, I looked around for some beers, some breweries, products that I hadn't seen before, and I stumbled across TUPPS Brewery, which is in McKinney, Texas. I had not tasted any of their stuff before. So today we will be sampling a TUPPS Brewery juice pack. It's a double dry hopped pale ale. So we'll be trying that today. Also, Firestone Walker Brewing Company, I've heard of them. We'll be tasting their Bretta Blanc. It's a wild ale Fermented with white grape juice, and they're from Buellton, California. And then Perennial Artisan Ales Intentionally Indulgent Imperial Stout will be on the menu as well. So it should be a good. And also today, since we have our whiskey expert here, we'll be checking out what to.
He makes a face every time you say that.
We'll be checking out a great new list that we stumbled across of the best songs about whiskey.
All right.
And
I got some thoughts.
And what whiskey to drink with them. So I always love doing whiskey lists when you're here.
I got things to say.
Yeah, you got things to say. That's
Things to
exactly
say.
right.
Go ahead and ask me about Alan Denny and Chris Morris again. I got left a few things off.
We got a lot of show left to go, so you'll have plenty of time. Ian, I've actually got to step out for a quick second and take care of something. Why don't you tell us about what you had an opportunity to smoke this week?
Well, man, I suppose I can do that. This morning I got up and made myself some breakfast. Oh, you don't want to hear about that. Actually, anyway, shortly after I did that, I went outside onto my back patio.
You had a morning cigar?
Yes.
Oh,
well,
okay.
I usually review my cigars right before the show, so my Thursdays are a wonderful morning.
Oh,
a lot of times I go up to Casa de Monte Cristo and do it, but this time I decided to stay on my back patio because I had a Alec Bradley Coyol, Coyol, Coyol in the humidor that I wanted to try. This is a Robusto at 5x52. The wrapper's Honduran. Binder and filler were Nicaraguan and Honduran blend. The appearance, light brown, like kind of leatherish. 2 bands, bit veiny, and the whole thing had a pretty firm feel overall. The pre-light sniff on this, barnyard, kind of classic tobacco, sweet coffee, fresh cut lumber. Really pleasant smelling cigar. Like I could wear that as a.
It looks like a morning, like a nice cup of coffee.
Right. Yeah. You know, the pre-light draw on this. I used a punch on it. Had a medium draw. Had earthy, leather, coffee, hay, and wood flavors going on through it. The initial light on this, tangy green pepper punch. Kind of a weird thing where the pepper doesn't hit the front of the palate, but towards the back of the palate and sits there, and it's a big spiciness. Tangy green pepper punch backed by spices and leather, big cedar notes going on. The first third of this, creamy pepper, leather, earth, coffee. That's what I got. It is much cedar going on in the beginning of this. Retrohale is pleasant with a fresh, fragrant kind of fresh cut wood quality, which I kind of enjoyed. Solid ash, very uneven burn. The second third of this, the cedar and leather became the theme of this, with touches of spice and earth, underlying pepper and toast with a slight nuttiness. Retrohale was peppery with fresh cut lumber, solid ash, uneven burn.
That's
now I never tended to burn on this. Okay, I just left it. It was just one of those uneven things, and it was about 3/8 to a ½ inch off from one side to the other. It never created a real run or anything like that, but it just had its kind of unevenness going on. The last third is earth and leather kind of take over. Pepper and cedar notes remain, underlying nuttiness, and toast started happening. It was really good at that point, and then a slight bitterness picked up and left a kind of a harsh, peppery aftertaste at this point. After just a couple minutes, the harshness went away and became kind of toast and pepper. Solid ash, the burn evened itself out perfectly by the end of this. So if you're looking at that picture, you'll see that the burn, I never tended it. It just became even at the very end. This is about an $8 cigar from Alec Bradley. I like a lot of Alec Bradley cigars. I'm not usually completely blown away. I like a lot of their cigars. I'm giving this one a 4. At $8, I really want to enjoy that cigar a little bit more. I don't want an uneven burn. Now, in their defense, I smoked one cigar, so it could just be the one cigar. It could be like if I smoke 5 of them, only one will have that.
Right.
But that harshness at the end that just kind of popped up and then changed flavors was just really weird to me. The overall flavor profile on is pretty good. If you like something in the mild to medium range with some interesting wood flavors, this is definitely a cigar for you.
Okay. And your price to quality?
I gave it a 4.
4.
I gave it a 4. I've had at $8. There's a lot of cigars out there I can pick up at $8 that I'm going to really enjoy.
Yeah, it looked like a solid $6 stick.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love a lot of what Alec Bradley has done. In fact, I talked to one of the owners recently, too. He's a big bourbon guy. If you said his name, I'd know it. It's one of the sons. Oh, I forget. One's named Alec and one's named Bradley, right? Is that,
I think that's right, yeah.
I think I talked
think that's right.
I think I talked to Alec, yeah.
Well, it's a good company. They make great cigars.
Great sticks.
Not everybody bats 1,000 and knocks
look
it
at
out
the
of the
shitty
park.
cigars I've made.
Your cigars tasted great.
Yeah. So, and I don't know if have we ever talked about it on this show? What happened there?
I don't think we ever did.
I don't think we've talked about the fact that there were some construction issues.
Yeah. So we were given. I'm a very when it comes to cigars, I'm a bit more prudish with what I enjoy versus whiskey. I like mezcal, I like sotol, I like rye, I like all these things.
Mm-hmm.
We were given some samples. Me and Alan Dinner were given some great samples of sticks from Room 101.
Mm-hmm. A very reputable and successful cigar company.
And apparently, we got with Stogie's owner, Jorge, and we basically tasted through a bunch. We said, okay, this is a great stick. This is what we want. He goes, well, the limited runs of Room 101 are always instant sellouts, so it's going to move. We'll just have to figure out how to pay you. So I don't want any money for it. I just want a good stick. I think it would be great. And I think we sold about half of them and then some the very first night of the Whiskey Social. So he made all of his money.
They made their debut there, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And
I bought a bunch.
You bought a
bundle,
bunch.
yeah.
Wade bought a bunch. And about 90% of the people that I know personally that bought some to support me sent me pictures.
I know I sent some.
You sent some packs of 10 that they unraveled, that they cracked, that they fell apart.
Not every single cigar.
Well, for
but
Wade,
there were ones in the pack.
For Wade, it was I think 8 out of 10 of the cigars.
Yeah, that's right.
I had about 6 of them that started to unravel, and the 4 that didn't work.
About the same.
So, and out of those 6, about 3 of them actually smoked.
Yeah.
So they sat around for over a year at Stogie's, and he goes, well, what's going on? Can we move through these? I'm like, no. Like if they were great quality, they would have gone through them. You said so yourself that limited edition runs go through pretty fast.
Boom, quick, yeah.
So if it's not moving, have you tried to smoke one? Have you tried to cut one without it falling apart in your hands? So I don't know what happened there. I don't know if it was just dry. I don't know if I'm not throwing stones. I'm not saying Room 101 did a switcheroo on us. I don't know what happened, but all of it was beyond our. It's no different than a whiskey. If we do a barrel selection and we say this is the greatest one, bottle this one and send me all of it. And if they send a cases full of vodka, that's not exactly my fault.
Right.
So I have aspirations to eventually do it again, but we're going to be doing it a lot differently. It'll be an actual private label, and we're going to put some real money behind it. So one day. But sorry, I didn't mean to hijack.
But you guys do such great limited things. The rum that you guys did with Plantation, I mean, that was outstanding.
We've got, in fact, I haven't told you guys this yet, but at the end of this month, at the end of August, towards my birthday, we have 19 new barrels arriving that are all exceptionally old. We're talking 17-year-old Jamaican, 27-year-old Jamaican, 20-year-old Barbados from Mount Gay.
Your garage must be full.
No, we're building a distillery across the street from Gulf Coast. Everything is out of Gulf Coast right now, so they're bringing it in. All my barrels will be stored there. I want y'all to come by, come taste through some straight from the barrel.
Oh no, I couldn't.
I don't know how to say no to that.
Yeah.
Wow, of course, that'd be great.
That's not even half of it, man. At the very beginning of September, we have 15,000 liters of cognac coming in.
Oh, wow.
10-year-old, 12-year-old, 14-year-old, 21-year-old Grand Champagne, and 30-year-old.
Oh.
So when that all gets here, you guys need to come by the distillery. Let me put some booze in your bellies.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know we're building a cigar deck on the side of Gulf Coast.
Nice.
So come taste through some barrels, some liquid straight from the barrel. Come have a cigar. Enjoy your day. And I'll take care of you guys.
Count me in. All right, let's take a quick break.
We're going to make that a mandate.
Yeah. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, I want to tell you about what I smoked this week, and also it's time to start the tasting. So we'll be jumping in with this TUPPS Brewery Juice Pack Double Dry Hopped Pale Ale, and we'll see where else we can, what we might be able to get Chris to open for us from his little private selection here. So hang on. It is all about whiskey today. Whiskey expert in the house, and the best whiskey songs. And what whiskey to drink when you listen to them. All coming up on Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It is Smoking and Toasting. It is a program that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We are brought to you by mycigarshirts.com. Great website on the intranet for lovers of cigars and enjoyers of T-shirts because they have great cigar-related
And
T-shirts.
comfy T-shirts, too.
Yes,
Those
they are.
T-shirts are
They're
nice.
very nice. They're very nice. And they start under $20. So check them out, mycigarshirts.com, because...
Cigars.
Yes, sir. So I want to tell you about what I smoked this week.
Right before you do that.
Okay. Oh, thank you for that. Does that
Okay, now
does
I'll
that
pour while you talk.
Does that set the tone or what?
My nipples are hard.
You know, as an official card-carrying personal member of the AJ Fernandez Fanboy Club, I have tried just about everything that he's blended in the world of cigars, but I've never talked about smoking this particular one on the show before. I've had a number of these. In fact, I've got a number of them in my humidor right now, but I've never actually talked about them on the show, and I thought, this is too important a cigar not to discuss. So I am today going to be talking to you about the AJ Fernandez New World Cameroon Churchill.
Ooh.
Now, the New World line you're familiar with. It was one of the early lines that AJ put out when he was first doing, cigars under his own name instead of just making them for other people. And the New World line debuted back in 2014. 4 years later, he added this particular blend, which uses a Cameroon wrapper around a Nicaraguan binder and filler. The cigar is gently box pressed. It's almost square, just has the tiniest bit of roundness to it. But this particular size is not rectangular. It's more almost square. Right. And the label is the New World label that shows Columbus landing in the Americas, except it's got more of a green tint to it. And there's an extra band that says Cameroon Selection. And the pre-light sniff and draw, both very rich and earthy, with a very pleasant leather note and a touch of green tea. I used a punch. It lit effortlessly. And I can tell you from smoking this cigar in the past, this is just one of the most easy draw, perfect burn cigars ever. It might not be always razor sharp, but I don't think I've ever had one of these give me a burn problem.
Sorry to interrupt you. I don't think I've ever had and I could be completely wrong, but a box press cigar that didn't draw amazingly.
I've had a few, but generally speaking, you're absolutely right that there's something about that shape that seems to lend itself towards a more even burn.
Sure.
And I'm guessing it's just the way that the wrapper tobacco burns as it draws. But
or maybe just compressing the tobacco slightly.
Maybe, yeah.
Rocky Patel's vintage series are all the box press, and they draw well, but there's some burn issues for sure. Consistent burn issues.
I used a punch on this baby. I lit it effortlessly and was greeted by a nice bloom of pepper, but there was also, you expect the pepper from the Nicaraguan cigars, but there was also this little initial bit of honey sweetness that balanced out that pepper real nicely and kept it from being in any way harsh or too big. The first third kind of settled into its flavors very quickly. I was quite pleased with how a cedar note developed that played really nicely with the spiciness of the Cameroon wrapper. It had a pleasant sort of a minerality to the cigar, kind of like a really good mineral water, just leaves that flavor on your tongue. Second third continued to be nicely spiced. Black pepper, a hint of cayenne, balanced still by this very slight sweetness. It was during the second third that I kind of put my finger on the spiciness of the retrohale, because it was a little different from the pepper that I was getting on the initial draw on the cigar. The retrohale was a little more like a nostril-based heat that reminded me of wasabi.
Wasabi, or like a hot mustard.
Right,
yeah.
it's more in the nose than
Right.
it is, and of course it's a retrohale, so that might have had something to do with it. But anyway, it was quite pleasant. Construction. Solid all the way through this thing. Cedar and wood notes dominated about the halfway point, along with the pepper. The finish was dry, kind of like a champagne dryness, and it even gave me a little bit of toasted almond.
That's like a solid medium.
Yes.
in fullness on that one.
That's right. And I was
Strength.
going to mention that the New World line is very full-bodied, full-bodied. But this Cameroon selection is much more in the medium part of the range. You probably won't be surprised by this, but I love the cigar. While the standard New World, again, is fuller-bodied, this one comes in right about medium. Great construction, solid ash, tasty all the way through. It's almost as if this Fernandez guy knows what he's doing. I actually like this blend a little better than the standard New World, personally. It's a great one when you're in the mood for something big, but it's definitely got a little more punch to it. This one is right in the middle of the palate. Cameroon's a little more subtle, and it was delicious to the nub. At $6 to $7. I really can't recommend this highly enough. In fact, it sticks like this one that can make it hard for me to give those $10, $11, $12 cigars a higher rating.
Yeah.
Because I'm comparing them to what you could do at 6 or 7 like this one, and it really kind of, really bats way above its average. I'm going to say thumbs up, solid 6 for price to quality, maybe even a 6.5. It's just, I don't want to get too carried away because I know I'm a fanboy, right?
I've smoked that cigar, and I remember enjoying it. I've never done a sit down and think about it review on it.
Right, and I've smoked a number of these. This is the first time I really stopped and thought about the flavors.
But I also know that if I took Mad Dog 2020 and put the name Alec Bradley on it, you would probably drink it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I mean,
I'm totally
there is
teasing
something
you.
to be said of the novelty items. I mean, I think Weller just came out with a bunch of cigars that have the Weller bourbon logo on it, and I say taters, but fanatics lost their minds buying it up for a premium price.
Yeah, it happens. I mean, that's one of the reasons. And it's one of the reasons that a lot of celebrities give their name to products, and a lot of
we could talk about that too.
Yeah, well, that's a whole.
I
other
recently
kettle of
smoked a
fish.
bourbon barrel aged cigar that
Yes.
Was garbage?
I did not enjoy it even remotely.
I bought a box.
Not really. I mean, it's better to have a cigar than not to have a cigar, but just above.
So I reviewed a Perdomo sun-grown
the champagne?
about a month or two ago. It wasn't the champagne, but it was the sun-grown.
Perdomo champagne's amazing.
Yeah, and really liked it and wound up buying a box, except what I didn't realize was that the box I bought, the sun-grown box, was bourbon barrel-aged. And so I've had a while to go through them, and it's not that I don't enjoy them, but I don't really almost want the bourbon barrel aging
It's like
on
the
my
Kentucky
cigar.
Fire Cured too. It's
Yeah.
like sometimes it's just too much. Once in a while, it's fine. But
Yes.
The Muat, the Mosey weighs a ton.
Yeah.
So there's this guy in downtown Louisville. I believe his name is Joseph Shepard. We've all seen barrel-aged cigars. We've seen the Maker's Mark dipped cigars.
Are you
the
talking
cognac
about
dipped.
Ted's?
No.
Okay.
He basically took a barrel of brandy, of fruit brandy, and suspended the cigars vertical, just above the liquid. And to me, this is the perfected science of flavoring cigars this way that no one else has seemed to be able to duplicate. There's some, I mean, the wrappers, first of all, the cigars were great. I love a good 54 ring gauge. I love a good thick, hearty, 6.5-inch cigar. I mean, who doesn't love a good 6.5 inches? And he suspended the cigars, and literally the vapor, the oils of the brandy completely throughout the leaf, coated, and when you pull them out, and there's like a sheen to them, but just enough of a sheen, just enough. It's not, you don't really taste the brandy when you bite into it and start to light it, but it really burned. I'll bring you some. I couldn't believe how great these were.
Where do you get these only in Kentucky?
At Copper and King's Distillery on site, but I'll reach out to the guy. I'm Facebook friends with him. I'll buy a box or however I don't know if they're bundles or what, but I will. If you're gonna have a flavored cigar, or if you're gonna have a infused cigar, this guy,
that's where to go.
I think this guy's perfected.
So I've seen like Ted's cigars. Ted's is also in Louisville, and you've seen them. They're in the little glass tube, and it's like Maker's Mark or whatever they do them in their different things. Ted's cigars and
have the little wax on the end of the tube.
And frankly, almost all of the. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Is that his?
That's I was
sorry
moving around.
Haven't tasted that.
Almost all of the. Bourbon barrel, almost not all of them. I've had a few that are okay, but almost all of them just have this tangy,
bitterness,
bright, bitter kind of thing going on.
Absolutely.
It just doesn't match what you want in a cigar.
What I've generally found, although I can enjoy them occasionally if I'm kind of in the mood for that. But what I've found is they give me sort of the same sensation as a very cheap, like drinking a Jack Daniels or you know what I mean? Like, okay, it's still whiskey. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It still has that basic, satisfaction of being that. But it's not really giving me the flavors that I'm looking for. But again, that's just me. I know some people that love those things.
Well,
And I enjoy acid every once in a while.
It definitely
and a few
adds
cigars.
a sweetness to the cigar, I think, but it's not always in a way that I appreciate. So.
Yeah, absolutely. You have poured us this beer, Ian. This is from TUPPS Brewery in McKinney, Texas. It is their Juice Pack, double dry hopped pale ale, which I'm finding much more difficult to say than I would have thought, but that's okay. Anything have you done any research yet on this?
I haven't
Ian?
been doing research. On the nose, it's fruity and
A
beer.
little citrusy and beer.
Yeah, it's fruity and beer, and it smells nice enough. This double dry hop pale ale is so juicy and bursting with tropical aromas. We have a hard time keeping it in the can. Malt profile. They have a level 1 through 5 malt profile. They put it at 3. Hop profile. They put fruit at 5, citrus at 5, and floral at 2. And then the yeast profile, they put fruit at 4. I can get behind it. This is not a bad drinker.
It's definitely got the sort of lighter citrus fruit flavors to it. It reminds me a little bit of the flavor of a Starburst. Not as sweet as that, but you know how like if you get an orange Starburst candy, it doesn't really taste like orange, but what it tastes like is pretty good. You know what I mean?
So this right here, so this is very drinkable. It doesn't have anything obnoxious in it. It doesn't feel like you just wiped hops across your tongue. It does have a definite dryness to it.
It's not super
finish.
dank, but there's some juiciness to it for sure.
Yeah.
And it's drinkable. This is pretty
what's
nice.
the ABV on this? Does it say?
5.5%.
Oh, I know. That seems low.
So, well, it kind of strikes me that way, though. It's all, I don't want to say it's crushable, but it's real close. I could see drinking this at the pool on a summer afternoon. It's not so heavy that you would. Of course, Ian looks at me like, yeah, I'll drink a barley wine at
I
the
have
pool.
no problems with that.
What'd you guys drink? What'd you guys bring to drink while we tubed down the river? Some barley wines, an Imperial Stout, some porters. That's Ian
not
for you.
too far out, to be
By
honest
the way,
with you.
speaking of tubing down the river, when is that? Did you buy your big
That
cigar
was
yet?
last weekend.
Oh, so how did that go?
I put the picture of it last weekend.
Oh, I didn't get to see it.
8x80 JFR Lunatic.
I love
So
that.
I lit the cigar when we got in the river. By the time we did a 2.5 hour float, right?
Yeah.
We got out of the river, and we got out. The nice thing was where we got out of the river was right at our campsite.
Yeah.
So we just tossed our tubes up, and then we just kind of hung out in the river for like another hour, and I still had cigar when I got back to the campsite. So that cigar lasted for 3.5 hours.
Oh, man, you got to love that.
And it finally... I probably could have smoked it some more, and I was like, nope, I'm just done.
I'm just done. Yeah, that's about all I can do.
And then I waited a half an hour and lit another cigar.
Yeah. I was going to say, it's kind of like when you smoke 2 cigars back to back. Like, it's really enjoyable, but by the
That's
time
my favorite.
By the time you get to the end of the second one, you're usually ready for a little break. But then I'm like you, about a half an hour later, I could go again.
No, so I mean that sounds like a lot of personal information.
A little TMI
2
there.
rounds and a break. Wow, overachiever here. No, I when I play, I don't smoke very often. But when I'm playing poker, I'm gonna be at the table for 5 hours. I'm chain smoking cigars. I will smoke 5 in a row. And I will regret it by the 5th one.
Oh, you just
I'll
need to
regret
get
the next
one
morning.
giant
Oh,
cigar, the cigar of intimidation.
Yeah. Well, I know when Ian and Adam and I were invited to Honduras and went to the Aladino farms.
So jealous.
They basically had a group of about, what was it, Ian, about 15 guests that were there. And they had a really nice table set out, and they just opened it up with boxes of Aladino.
It was a buffet, and it was just a buffet of cigars.
And I don't think any of us have ever smoked as continually as we did, because when your cigar would end, you would just go to the table and get another one.
Oh, well, so in the mornings, like the whole morning ritual was wake up,
Coffee.
Have your coffee and a cigar, and then after that you'd have breakfast.
Right.
And then you'd walk over to the buffet and you'd stuff your pockets because we were about to go out on the truck and out into the farm.
Right, so you didn't want to be without a cigar
you'd have,
while you were
like,
out
2
there.
or 3 cigars in your pockets, and you'd smoke them all the way out there. And then when you get back for lunch, you'd sit down, of course, and relax and have a cigar. I mean, it was continuous and beautiful.
Yeah, it was one of those things where you didn't feel like you needed any excuse to go, okay, I think I'll have a cigar now. You just had one.
Yep.
And it was beautiful and awesome. Chris Hart is our special guest here. Chris is, of course, one of the guys behind the Houston Bourbon Society, one of the guys behind the Houston Whiskey Social, which is now just known as the Whiskey Social,
That's
right?
correct. Oh, wow. You caught on. A lot of people didn't catch on to that.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so
this is a man with global aspirations.
We have intentions of going beyond Houston, and to be honest with you, the Whiskeys of the World would do Whiskeys of the World Dallas, Whiskeys of the World Austin.
Mm-hmm.
We should be doing the Whiskey Social Houston, the Whiskey Social Dallas. So we have plenty of plans of these things, as well as doing an agave social in the spring.
Well, we've said this.
Agave social.
We've said this a number of times on the show, and I will say it again. Of any of these kind of events that we've been to, yours is absolutely the best, and we're not receiving anything other than maybe a drink of what you brought along to say that. But no, we really do mean that. You guys really do it right.
Well, I really genuinely appreciate it, and we've got every year we have our growing pains. 1 year it was too hot. The next year we ran out of food. Every year we fix the problem, and then we've got a new issue.
Yeah.
Last year we had one set of bathrooms. This year we will have 4 sets of bathrooms.
Woo-hoo.
We've also found a way to take over more of the property and give us another 2,000 square feet of elbow room. So
Nice.
every year we're learning. We ask that our fans, be patient, give us the feedback, be honest. You guys gave me that feedback about how crammed it was last year, so we will. There is no excuse for there to be the same issue 2 years in a row.
Can I offer my favorite part of the Whiskey Social?
Sure.
My favorite part is several hours in, when I see Chris appear out of the door of that green room or whatever it is, and he's got a bottle of who knows Pappy Van Winkle, who knows what it is, and he's just walking around pouring it like he is the whiskey Santa Claus, and it's just. It's one of those things where everybody is happy. Chris is happy because he's sharing this great whiskey with people. People that are getting it are happy because they're getting to drink it. It's one of those very wonderful communal moments, and it's completely separate from walking around to the different booths and tables and sampling what they have. This is just bonus whiskey.
Yeah, we have 2 additional owners.
Yeah.
They each bought a portion of the whiskey. So there'll be 3 of us walking around pouring insane bottles this year. And during COVID, all we did was purchase as many Dusties, old, rare, expensive. And we'll be debuting the cognac at the event. We'll be debuting the rums at the event. So we'll have Gregarious Grump will have its own table, and we'll be making sure that you leave getting your money's worth. I think someone did the math one year, and I think you're paying about 13 cents per pour.
It's absolutely insane. You can't explain that to somebody until they're there to see. You could try to explain it to them, and they could see it, like, I'm sure, on some kind of intellectual level, but you don't realize it until you get there and you start having drinks.
Yeah, I mean, people, I get it. You pay $90 for GA and $130 for VIP, but what you're getting, one, you're getting bottles that a lot of people are just not going to get their hands on. 2, not only did we buy 1 set of Pappy bottles, we bought 2. So we walk around, even if you didn't get a Pappy ticket, there's a small chance you may get a pour of 23-year-old Pappy and or old vintage bottles you can't find at any bar in Texas. So in terms of value, even with having to wait a little bit in line in the bathroom, is just it's undeniable. It's objectively a deal.
It's awesome. What did you bring with you today that you want us to sample?
Well, I guess we can start with we'll start to. First, I guess we could start here. So, Dickel, I'm a fan of Dickel. I'm exceptionally fond of their older offerings, but this is something that's really interesting. So we don't do brand interviews on my show anymore. I don't want to walk through spirits, and we try to stick to interesting conversations with, spirited conversations with interesting people.
While you drink spirits.
We drink spirits, right? So it comes off less sales pitchy at times, and I think it's important. So I made an exception for Nicole Austin, who's the head distiller for Dickel. There are 2 famous Tennessee whiskeys, right? Not they don't like to be called bourbon. They like to be called Tennessee whiskey. Dickel is is number 2.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest one is, and that's one of the greatest songs of whiskey.
What, Tennessee whiskey?
Tennessee
It's
whiskey.
so awesome.
Yeah. If that's not on the list is wrong. Just so you know.
No, and I haven't gone all the way through the list, but I agree with you.
Yeah.
If it's not there, screw that list.
Yeah. So she is like 20-something, maybe 30-something. She's incredibly young, and she's the head distillery manager for Dickel in Tullahoma. And she's like, you know what? We've been Tennessee whiskey for so long. It's a marketing thing, and it's caused the argument between whether or not Jack Daniel's qualifies as bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna take our Tennessee whiskey and release a product called bourbon right on the label to prove
That Tennessee whiskey. Bourbon is Tennessee whiskey.
correct.
Yeah.
And it's basically a big middle finger to the debate. It's a big middle finger to this marketing thing that came up, decades ago. And she's like, look, it's bourbon. Here you go. Here's proof.
It says so right on the label.
It says it right on the label. So same exact. It's a small batch blend. She released it, and they sent me this bottle. They know they're not sponsors, but it's a really affordable 8-year-old.
That was
Oh my
beautiful.
gosh! Oh my gosh!
That was
here,
was
we
really
got
wonderful.
Glencairns.
Yeah,
We got
we'll do
Glencairns.
Glencairn on this. All right, I'll pass it
So,
on.
how many? What's your capacity for this event?
Okay, so last year we did 1,640 people and 75 vendors.
Wow.
And the 75 vendors, which made up about a little over 400 spirits total. And we were crammed. Well, that venue does a nursing conference every year of about 3,000 women. So why was it so crammed? Because of all the tables.
Right.
Yeah. So we're gonna move the food outdoors. There's a back patio we've never used. We're gonna put tents up, have food out there. We'll free up a whole room that of 2,000 square feet. We'll reduce the number of vendors we invite while not sacrificing the good spirits. And that's going to automatically give us 2,000 square feet. Plus, by adding 4, so we have 2 sets of bathrooms indoors and 2 luxury air-conditioned trailer bathrooms that we're going to be setting up outdoors that people can go to. So that should mitigate just the lines.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say this on the nose. It actually really reminds me of a bottle of Dickel single barrel that I have at home. That it's more that rectangular bottle, and it's just got a real sort of a cinnamony profile on the nose, and this reminds me a bit of that. I haven't tasted it yet, but
Like
I'm about
cinnamony and mineral water and
I always think mineral.
mineral. Yeah,
Yes.
it's very mineral.
Had a little stroke there. Minimum.
to. Boy, that's good. That's good. That's an 8-year.
8 years old, 90 proof. It's just a solid. There's
Very easy to drink.
It's
you know?
there's nothing to complain about. Charcoal, chill filtered, goes through the Lincoln County process. It's bourbon, just like Jack Daniel's is bourbon. But here's the catch: people love to say, who are advocating for this argument, people love to say, all Tennessee whiskey, not all bourbon is Tennessee whiskey, but Tennessee whiskey is bourbon. That's not necessarily true.
Yeah.
Technically, the rules for Tennessee whiskey do not cover additives. So you theoretically could have just a
Tennessee
touch of
whiskey.
sugar,
Right.
and it wouldn't technically qualify as bourbon, but would still qualify as Tennessee whiskey.
Correct. Well, that's interesting. Let's make sure we show that bottle to the camera and make sure
There we
everybody
go.
gets
Where are we at? There we go.
a good look at it, because that's one that you can find. Chris is going against his norm here by bringing us something to sample that you can't actually go to the store
You
and
can
buy.
actually go get it. It's out there, yeah.
So
She did a great job.
Good thing. So, all right, as we head to break, and we'll be back with more tasting, including some Firestone Walker Bretta Blanc, I will just mention that when you talk about the song Tennessee Whiskey, what you want to look for on the web is Chris Stapleton with Justin Timberlake.
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah.
And they do Tennessee Whiskey and then seg right into I Can't Drink You Away. I think it was from the ACM Awards several years ago. I've watched it 100 times. It's so freaking good.
I want you to also, when you listen to that, immediately put Etta James, I'd Rather Go Blind. It's the exact same song. Literally, it's the
And it's
exact
a
same
great-
chords
yeah,
and the
it's
exact
wonderful.
same key and the exact same time signature.
Yeah.
Even with the same little ba-da-da-da-da licks and all that stuff, everything.
Da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a break while that song plays in my head the whole time now, and we will be right back. We have a whiskey expert in the house, and we're about to talk about the best whiskey songs coming up. It's Smoking and Toasting. How far do we go? Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. This program's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We are brought to you by mycigarshirts.com. Great shirts on the web for cigar lovers and the people who love them. See, I worked it back in.
See, what Cruze is trying to say is this show is brought to you by good things and other good things.
And it's generally about good things, which
Yes.
is another
And
wonderful
sponsored
thing
by
about
good
it.
things.
Yeah. So it reminds me of a line in MASH, but it would take too long to set it up. But Henry Blake was just like the most awesome character, and he had some great lines. Oliva Cigar Company. We had Trenton from Oliva Cigars just recently on
Great
the
guy.
show. Oliva has been one of your sponsors in the past for the.
Trent's not someone I get to hang out with often, but he is someone. Oliva has been a part of the Whiskey Social since its inception. Trent has been there for 6 years. He is one of the most kindest, coolest people in the
Absolutely.
world. Couldn't be a bigger fan.
When we had him on the show, we were making the point that Oliva doesn't just like announce like new additions to their lineup like every other day, like some cigar companies do. And that day they announced he was able to actually debut the announcement here on the show.
Yeah, he got the email.
He got the email
while we were on the show.
we were on the air. So that was
pretty awesome.
actually pretty cool. Well, there's more news from Oliva. They have acquired Cuba Aliados and Puros Indios. Both of those brands have been picked up, and I think those, by the way, were both owned by the same. So they're two separate brands, but one company.
Sure.
So they've picked up the company behind those. And I will say, I used to smoke a lot of Puros Indios cigars because when you needed to like fill the humidor with something fairly inexpensive and you wanted something that was pretty good, that's kind of where I put Puros Indios. They weren't like the greatest cigar ever.
They were yard gars.
But they were great yard gars, and
Yeah.
they were usually consistent, and the construction was good, and you could enjoy them. It'll be interesting to me to see, is that where Oliva leaves them? Because Oliva already has the Gilberto Oliva line.
But I think Gilberto
Which is-
is just like one notch above the Puros Indios, I think. You know?
I would agree. So my question would be, will they leave the quality of these about where they are and make them their, lawnmowers, or and then have Gilberto Oliva be the next step up, and then the Oliva and so on, or
Wait,
They
you
might
guys,
make them
you guys
better,
don't
but
mow
I-
the lawn with placencias?
Yeah.
I mow the lawn with Padron Aniversarios myself, but that's just because I don't mow the lawn, which keeps me out of this whole debate.
Right.
But no, you're absolutely right. They will probably make them better just because
I can't
it's
imagine
them.
them making them worse.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh no. Well.
And I mean that as a compliment. Like, but you're there. Like,
Yeah.
don't go any lower.
Right.
This is
you don't see them reducing the
Yeah,
quality,
yeah.
but it'll just be interesting, and it'll be there have been some brands that have been acquired that they relaunch them at a completely different price point with a completely different profile
level
of tobacco and stuff.
yeah.
So it's hard to know what they'll do, but that's one that we'll be watching. And speaking of watching, we do have some other cigars for you to watch for that we will get to later on in the program. But Chris has poured us something else very interesting from his private stash. What are we drinking here, Chris?
Yeah. So tomorrow is
Ooh, I love the nose on
Friday
this.
the 13th.
Yes. It's also International Beer Day, by the way.
Yes, yeah, International Beer Day, Friday the 13th. It's quite common that they celebrate over at Sagamore Friday.
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 Correct.
Yeah, there
Friday
you go.
the 13th. So
Yeah.
we just recently did a barrel selection with them. I'm just a fan. I mean, you're talking about a classic custom blended mash bill of 2 MGP recipes. And it's just solid rye whiskey. Like, what's there
Right.
to complain about? You can't really go wrong. I'm a big fan of Sagamore.
Will someone make a rye and call it Rye of the Ancient Mariner? 'Cause I want that so bad.
You do want that. You brought that up before, and I support you on this. I think it's a good. We should do a campaign, some kind of online. Maybe we'll do like a GoFundMe, and if we get enough money, we'll do our own private label. Rye of the Ancient Mariner.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, and it's usually about that 6-year-old age point. You can't really go wrong. So,
Am I losing my mind? Is there a little floral kind of?
with rye, of
See, I
course.
get a little bit of it on the nose. Yeah,
It's
for
almost
sure.
like
Tons
a
of spice.
like a floral, almost like a rose petal or something in there.
So like a rose, isn't that? What is that from?
And that guy with the bandana. What's his name? Bret Hart. I don't know. What's his name?
The Hitman?
No. The guy that the Thorn of a Rose. What's that song?
Poison.
Yeah, but what's the guy's name?
Every rose has its thorn. Bret Michaels.
Bret Michaels. Yeah. Same. They're all the same.
He's going to be on. Oh, they're doing a. They're bringing back Behind the Music.
Yeah.
At VH1, and one of the ones they're doing is Bret Michaels.
Oh God, no one's listen. I was talking to my daughters the other day, and they didn't know who. What's his name? He was so David Hasselhoff.
They didn't know the Hoff.
Didn't know the Hoff. Like we're in an era.
And how old are your daughters?
15 and 16.
And they don't know the Hoff, but that makes sense.
Correct.
Yeah.
You know who they know less?
Who?
Bret Michaels. like you have your era.
Yeah.
Leave it there.
Are you going to sit down and binge watch Baywatch with them now?
Yeah.
The one with Zac Efron? That's what they're going to think. Zac Efron on The Rock.
Just to show you that there are peaks and valleys in the quality of rock and roll, I bet your daughters know who Led Zeppelin is.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So it's not like, and that's older than Bret Michaels. So it just goes to show you.
And they know who Nirvana is.
Right. So there's another peak.
Correct.
You see. So that's exactly right.
On the 4-hour drive back and forth to Dallas, we were listening to 90s music.
Yeah.
And Nirvana comes up, Smells Like Teen Spirit. Don't change the song. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
I'm proud of you.
All right, there you go. Well, I bet though they don't have a clue about Winger and Warrant, do they?
No. I asked very recently. I asked them who. You know what's funny? They know who Hall & Oates is.
That's different. Daryl Hall is timeless.
Listen, Rich Girl. I lost all ability to sing when puberty hit. But I will sing at the top of my lungs, Rich Girl, anywhere I'm at.
All right, so I'm taking you karaoke then. You're going to sing Rich Girl.
I did my first. I went to my first karaoke the other day, and I realized how completely out of touch. There's two places that people will expose themselves as somewhat mentally unstable.
Yes,
and
that's one of them.
That's an open mic night and karaoke.
Open mic night for comedy and karaoke.
And karaoke, because then you realize, you don't realize how horrible this is for everyone watching. It's an absolute nightmare.
See, the fun people are the ones that don't realize it. The next to the most fun people are the ones that realize it but don't care.
I'm good friends with the lead singer of the band SR-71. They had a couple of alternative chart hits back in the early 2000s, and he's a great musician, great singer. He now is mostly a songwriter. A lot of people have recorded his songs, but I was out with him one night after a show, and we wandered into a karaoke bar. And we're sitting at the bar, and he goes, "I'm going to go sing." I was like, "Are you kidding me?" He goes up and picks out a song.
Probably kills it.
Walks up onto the stage and does "Wanted Dead or Alive" by Bon Jovi. And I'm still sitting at the bar. My back is to him. And I'm watching the people around me at the bar all kind of go. Because he was the first guy the whole night that really knew how to sing.
You know what's amazing about that? As cringeworthy as it was to watch them freak out at how awkward this was and how cringy this was, all that's fine. But when you are at a karaoke and someone does have a voice, it gives you chills.
Yeah,
it's always amazing to watch.
It's always that moment, right? Yeah.
But why is that? Because
because most people don't.
No, what I mean is like when a kid screams and cries and has a whiny voice, everyone's angry. But when a kid's giggling just as loud, it's heartwarming.
This is very deep and philosophical for smoking.
I was going to say the lower the valley, so to speak.
My bad.
Well,
next time.
So we ended up at a karaoke just the other night during our brew club camp out.
Oh, how fun.
One of the guys was like, "Are you going to go do karaoke?" I was like, "Well, that'd be kind of like you getting up and fixing their AC for fun, wouldn't it?"
If they're going to pay me, yeah, sure.
That's good. That's good. Well, I'll say two things. Number one, the Sagamore Rye is
delicious.
Fantastic. I mean, it's just absolutely, it's so full of spice and flavor, but not in a cloying way at all. It's still just really easy to drink and does just wonderful things in the finish and on the palate. So that's number one. Number two is you and me.
Okay.
We're going to karaoke. If you'll do Rich Girl, I'll do Friends in Low Places. Is it a deal?
No.
I have to see this. I have to see this.
Ian's now going to make this happen.
I have to see. There will be a karaoke.
Yeah.
I'll go with you to karaoke. I'm not karaoke.
I got up at the New Potato. I think it's on Thursday nights.
Yeah.
Not only do they have a patio where you can smoke cigars, but one of my buddies that I smoke cigars with does the karaoke up there.
Oh, so he hosts the karaoke.
There's
Huh?
a karaoke
Is it out, and it's outdoors, where you can smoke and
cigars.
I'll go up and do 3 minutes of open mic. I'll do that.
you know what?
That's about as long as a song, right?
We'll find some common ground here, and we'll be right back.
It's an idea that needs shaping.
poetry there for us.
That's right. I want to hear you do some really good 70s style.
Jared says
poetry.
he's
That'd
heard
be awesome.
that Chris Hart only likes to smoke Swishers and drink Busch Light.
That's right.
Yeah, that's him.
Shout out
That's
to
him.
Jared Liddell.
All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. We got to tell you about new cigars to watch for. That's coming up. Plus, we're not far away from drinking news, my friends.
Man, that's good guitar tone.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is Smoking and Toasting. We're the program that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We are brought to you by mycigarshirts.com because
Cigars.
Yes, thank you, gentlemen. All right, so I got a 20-song list of whiskey songs.
Let's rip it apart.
And let's roll through this. And we're also going to tell you, and I'm not going to read. We could spend an hour on this, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to tell you the song and what they recommend, and then our resident whiskey expert, as well as Ian and myself, could comment on what we think about it.
It's got to have a drink on me, right?
So one would hope so. Speaking of which, by the way, guess what I got yesterday in the mail? I got the AC/DC beers. We're going to have those guys on via Skype. So they sent us some AC/DC beers, not AC/DC, but the brewers. The brewers. Yeah, I know. I would get all excited too. But anyway, they're going to be on the show coming up here in a few weeks. The brewers who put this all together with AC/DC, and so they sent us some beers so we'd be able to taste them during the show. So
That makes me feel all.
yeah, exactly. It makes me. It makes me a little worked
You
up.
guys know what I mean.
Number 20 on this list of whiskey songs, Riffin' the Scotch by Billie Holiday. Are you familiar with this song?
Familiar with Billie Holiday?
I don't know
I'm
that
not familiar with the song,
Yeah.
and that probably tells you something.
So, as much as I hate to admit it, I don't know this song either, but I love Billie Holiday, so I will definitely be checking the song out because I like the title. I love Billie Holiday, so let's see what goes with it. Johnny Walker Green Label, they say.
That's a song?
No, that's what they say goes with it.
Okay, so let me.
So when you're and this is obviously very arbitrary.
That's not very promising.
This is very arbitrary.
That's not very
but we're
promising
also
at
at the bottom of the list
Wait,
too.
how old was that song? Fun fact. But go ahead.
I was gonna say.
I bet it's 40 years old.
Hold that
at
thought.
least.
Hold that
if
thought.
it's
I need a
Billie
sound
Holiday,
here.
it has to be.
Okay. Oh.
Ooh,
all right.
Ian, that was spectacular.
So judge based off the era. Johnny Walker Green Label was a premium product 40 years ago.
yeah. Well, this song. It
It's
says
actually not bad now, honestly.
This song it says here is from the Benny Goodman big band era.
Okay.
So you're talking about
It's probably incredible back then.
You're talking about the pairing lyric. They say, "I jumped out of the frying pan and right into the fire, Lord, right into the fire." I will say I'd love to hear Billie Holiday sing that line. By the way, there's a great Billie Holiday movie out too.
I mean, what about Straight No Chaser?
Yeah, I would think that would be here. Now this one, number 19, One Bourbon, One Scotch, One Beer by John Lee Hooker, and of course it was covered also by George Thorogood. Yeah, they're recommending Chivas Regal 12.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hard pass.
Well, it's all right. Well, this is the bottom of the list. So, number 8.
That's like when you show up at someone's wedding and you're like, this is the whiskey
Go
we
to
got.
top 10.
Let's just go through these bottom ones quick. What Good Can Drink and Do, Janis Joplin.
Okay. Shout out to Janice. Big fan.
With Old Tub at number 18.
Old Tub's great.
All right. Number 17, Moonshiner by Bob Dylan with Crown Royal Northern Harvest Rye.
You know what's offensive about that? Bob Dylan's got his own whiskey, and they wouldn't even list.
They didn't even pick,
They didn't even pick his whiskey to
His
drink it
whiskey's
with.
pretty good,
Yeah,
too.
his whiskey's pretty good. In fact,
That's a crime.
Streams of Whiskey by the Pogues. And they have wisely paired it up with Tullamore Dew, which makes sense because the Pogues are as Irish as it is possible for a band to be. Oh, wait, did we I think
Did I
we
pour
touched
too
on
many?
Yeah, you poured too many.
That's
Dang it,
good,
man.
yeah.
It's okay. I'm gonna drink that
And
one.
they're a very whiskey-ish band too. So
Oh, the Pogues are great.
Yeah, Tullamore Dew and the Pogues. Number 15, Whiskey in the Jar by Thin Lizzy.
Of course, that should be way higher on there.
And Jameson Stout Cask is what they
okay.
is what they recommend for that.
I
So-
feel like they're okay.
They're reaching on the stout cast thing,
Yeah,
but
they're not only reaching on that. It feels like they're reaching on the pairing.
yeah.
It feels like is this an advertisement? Does it say
No,
at the
no,
top?
this is from Uproxx, so it's an article.
All right, so because the songs are actually pretty solid lineup, it's the pairings that are making me very mad.
So well, that's and
Keep
that's-
going. I'm just giving you a hard time.
That makes some sense. The pairing lyric they say is "As I was going over the Cork and Kerry Mountains," and they say if anything County Cork is known for, it's Middleton Distillery, where the world's supply of Jameson is made. So that's how they chose.
That's a great.
Yeah,
that
they're
makes sense.
justifying it.
Number 14, Smokin' Strong Whiskey by Christy Moore. They recommend drinking a Redbreast 12 cask strength with that.
One of the most beautiful Irish
It
whiskeys.
really
to
is a
ever
wonderful
grace
whiskey.
A
isn't
bottle
it?
is.
We had that over at the New Potato. Remember? It was fantastic.
Yep.
Here Comes a Regular by The Replacements at number 13.
I mean, Black Velvet's got to be on this list too.
And they recommend Larceny Wheated Bourbon
It's a
Barrel
solid choice.
Proof to go with it. At number 12, and I think this one should be higher, Whiskey River by Willie Nelson.
Oh, that's absolutely a crime.
yeah,
That's a crime.
100%.
And they recommend it with Balcones Texas Single Malt Whiskey. Okay, so that makes some sense, right?
Does
they're
it?
pairing up a Texas
Texas
whiskey
movie with Texas.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, all right, that'll work. Alabama Song, Whiskey Bar by The Doors at number 11 with Evan Williams Black Label. Boy, it got quiet over there.
Well, there's an Alabama style. There's a bunch of Alabama Clyde Mays. There's a bunch of Alabama style whiskeys out there. If you're gonna pair Balcones with a Texas Singer, why wouldn't you pair Alabama with Alabama? But
Makes sense, makes
listen,
sense.
keep going.
All right, so we're halfway through the list. Let's stop and talk about this beer.
Is this a sour? What is this?
It's
a wild ale.
A wild ale, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's from
This is
so
wild,
these guys-
wild ale fermented with white grape juice.
That's what I'm getting.
yeah, big
Got
time.
some Welch's
It's-
bitter grape leaves or grape skins.
Oh, it is very tart, but you know what?
I like it.
It's like they should serve this for communion.
That's
You know?
yeah.
It would totally work,
It
right?
would totally
it's got
work
the right.
with a nice
This is
dry,
also-
unsalted, leavened.
This is also at 8.9%.
Yeah. So weak.
yeah.
yeah.
Firestone Light. Is that what it
Nestled
is?
in the Santa Ynez Valley in Buellton, California, Barrel Works is located pristine. This is long.
So, well, Barrel
Let's get
Works.
back to our
Okay, so
list.
Barrel Works is the division of Firestone Walker that does these very
Yes.
specialized specialty brews.
So a lot of detailed stuff. This blend has incorporated Bretta Weiss as the perfect base to feature the fruit-driven aromatics found in these varietals. Aromas of melon and tropical fruit give way to mild tannic oak notes, followed by additional undertones of lemon and roses.
Everything that they
Saute.
said you can really taste in there, but also the tannins almost like a wine. Ian, show that bottle to the camera.
It's got
so
a
they
very
can-
fermented white grape, kind of an
Yeah.
older.
Very much.
I think it's delicious, but it's definitely a specialty bottle. It's one you open and taste with your friends as opposed to when you're
this is
Yeah, I'd
the
like
throwing
to
back
taste
on
it.
a Friday night.
What's that?
You're doing good, Ian.
Christie with Ingenious. They do those beer meetups. Have you ever been to one of those? Everybody brings about 5
but I know
beers.
about 'em, yeah.
And there's 40 beers and 6 people.
Wasn't that kind of like what Alan used to do way back in the man cave
First
days?
of all,
Yeah.
I started that,
Okay.
and I was doing it at the man cave with Alan, and it
Right.
kept going.
Yeah, it was awesome. The one I came to, I came empty-handed, and everybody else brought whiskey.
Well, let me make a self correction. They did have 2 or 3 regulars who would bring in like Balvenie Caribbean cask, but it wasn't a bottle share.
Right.
Right, me, Yawante, all of us got together, and of course it kept going long after the man cave shut down. But look, any chance I get to just knock Alan Denny down a peg, despite the fact that he's a brother to me, makes me happy. All right, moving on.
I want to say one more thing about this beer, and that is that as I finished what was in this cup, it really had that Doritos effect going. I really it was like
What's the
it's not
Doritos
just-
effect?
Well, it's like so Doritos have this scientific formula that's built into them. They are literally crafted to make you want another one after you finish a chip. It's part of how they are formulated from a chemical standpoint.
Yeah,
so
there's
they're
a lot of fast
designed to
food that
make you
does that.
crave another one, right? And so I call it the Doritos effect. And with pretty much any good beer, I want a little more. But there's that extra tick of the box where it makes you go, "Well, I really want another taste of that." And this has that in my mind.
There's a word for it. I think it's
The Bretta
called
Blanc.
palatability. It happens in sweet foods and junk foods and fast foods, where there's something. It's graded on a we know that we will sell more if we make it
More
this
of
on the
this.
scale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I just call it the Doritos effect, which is
I'm gonna look it up.
totally worth
If only
doing.
there was a device.
While he
Yeah.
does that, I'm going to jump back into this
Yep.
list. At number 10, they say to pair Bullet Rye with "Take Your Whiskey Home" by Van Halen.
No problem with that.
That's from the Women and Children First album, of course, you VH persons. Number 9, now this is an interesting choice. I actually mentioned this song earlier. "Friends in Low Places" by Garth Brooks.
Yeah.
And they're recommending going with a little Jim Beam Bonded. They say the bourbon beckons you in with notes of toasted oak, red cherry, and vanilla, and blah, 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 blah. The pairing lyric, "'Cause I've got friends in low places where the whiskey drowns and the beer chases my blues away.
It's a great song.
And I'll be okay." Yeah, that's why I'm
That
why I'm gonna do it at karaoke when you do Rich Girl.
That should be, in my opinion, top 5 most iconic whiskey songs. You don't think so?
Yeah,
It's up there.
I guess so.
It's up
yeah.
there. I mean, Whiskey River, though. I
Yeah.
can't believe that was so low.
Whiskey
on the
River
list.
should have been.
Whiskey
Now,
should have been top 5.
I am
Whiskey River.
I am thrilled to see this one on the list. I don't know if I'd have put it above Friends in Low Places and Whiskey River, but ZZ Top's "Whiskey and Mama" is on the list, and I love it because it wasn't a big hit, so they really found this
They
one.
dug
in
in a little
in
bit.
their catalog, yeah. And they say to go with Four Roses Bourbon. When you
I
listen
mean,
to
any
that.
chance to go with Four Roses Bourbon, I'm going to give him a thumbs up.
I mean, what in the hell is someone vacuuming the studio while we're on the air? What is that? It's a leaf blower.
I'm surprised we can hear it.
It's unbelievable. It's so much soundproofing in here.
The
and you can
loudest
still
leaf
hear
blower.
that stupid ass leaf blower. It's unbelievable. Sometimes I wonder if there is any place you can go inside a major city and not hear a leaf blower on a sunny afternoon. Number 7. This may be a bad omen for our wanting Tennessee whiskey to be included on this list,
Oh, no.
because they've got another Chris Stapleton song, "Whiskey and You," which is a good song.
No, there's no way Tennessee
Deserves
Whiskey's
to
not
be
on
on
this
the
list.
list, but this can't be here and not Tennessee whiskey. And I haven't looked at the whole list, so I don't know. They say Jim Beam Black to go with that.
Great bottle.
Whiskey and You is a great song. Whiskey Girl by Gillian Welch. They will choose a Michter's Small Batch Original Sour Mash Whiskey to go with that, and that's number 6 on the list.
Hard pass.
Hard pass on both?
No hard pass on the whiskey.
Oh, okay. What about you?
I brought that whiskey in when we did our blind whiskey taste, and
Yeah?
nobody liked it.
That's right, I remember that.
What's the title of this article?
It is...
Word for word.
All right, so let me go. I'm going to have to page all the way back up, but let's get it right. The best songs about whiskey and which whiskeys to drink with them. It's from the Life section of Uprocks, which is a pretty decent, website.
All right, so here's my complaint about this article.
Okay.
I've formulated it. I figured it out.
Okay.
The issue is you're really ranking the songs and then finding whiskey
And
to
then
drink
finding
with
a
them,
whiskey to go with them, right.
not ranking the whiskey.
I would agree with that.
Because for
that's-
number 6, for Michter's Sour Mash to be on there is simply a bad suggestion. Mm-hmm. It should be, if you're going to have it on the list, it should be further up. But some of the other ones are great.
They say Nowhere Man and the Whiskey Girl, they loaded up for a weekend in the underworld, is the lyric. And then they go on to say there's something about the folksy and haunting tones of Gillian Welch's voice that speaks to this deeply flavored and folksy whiskey. Pour it neat and let the record spin.
And no hard pass.
All right. Number 5. I support this being on the list. Drink You Away by Justin Timberlake.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Jack Daniel's Sinatra Select, however,
Hey.
is what they're choosing to go with.
That's
it.
a
And-
great whiskey.
And you're gonna say thumbs up to
The
that.
price
huh?
is a bit crazy, but the whiskey's
It's
great.
like $170, isn't it?
It's wild, but it's
Yeah.
the whiskey itself is fantastic.
Yeah.
We spent a night in Tennessee once at an Airbnb with some friends that had a pool table, and we spent the whole night listening to old music and killing that single bottle of Sinatra.
That could be fun.
It was brilliant.
That could be fun. Number 4, Have a Drink on Me by AC/DC.
Absolutely.
Yes, that had
Cheers
to
to
be on there.
that.
And they're saying Starward Solera. Is there any left in the bottle? See, we're taking this down. I'm telling you, Doritos Effect is in play here. It's in play here.
That's an
Starward
Australian
Solera.
whiskey.
Number 3, Broken Whiskey Glass by Post Malone.
I don't know that one.
And they're saying Wild Turkey 101 is what you do with that.
Absolutely, it's a great whiskey.
I thought for a moment there from your
Sorry.
from your
From my
raspberry,
reaction,
I thought you were going to diss it. I was like, no,
Wild Turkey 101's well loved.
Number 2, Cheers, Drink to That by Rihanna.
Okay, so you're down to
Anything by Rihanna should not be.
They're recommending Jameson 18.
She just became a billionaire. You are now on number 2. Mm-hmm. That means there's only one song left.
It has to be Tennessee whiskey.
It has
right?
to be Tennessee whiskey. If it's not Tennessee whiskey,
What about Black Velvet?
we murder Adam right now.
None of this is Adam's fault. He didn't even find
None
the
of it's
list.
Adam's
I
fault,
found the
but
list.
I'm furious. I need someone to take it out on. And if I had to rank fuck, marry, kill, I'm sorry, buddy, you're going down.
What about Black Velvet?
Black Velvet's not on there because it's not a reference to whiskey.
How much you want to bet neither one of those songs is number 1?
I
haven't seen it, so I don't know.
I'm gonna bet you. What do I bet you? I'm shotgun a beer after the show. I bet you it's Tennessee whiskey's got to be number 1.
Jameson 18, by the way, was what they recommended to go with the Rihanna song, and that shows an average price of $156.
Yeah, it's too much.
Too much.
Too much.
All right, I'm
we
scrolling
go.
down. Number 1. Tennessee whiskey, Chris Stapleton. All right, the list redeems itself.
Yeah, it does.
And they are recommending to go with that Uncle Nearest 1856. The list was predestined, they say, to end on this song. It's about being in love and the person you're in love with being as good as Tennessee whiskey. And
it's a perfect song.
It really is. It's so good. And when you combine it with that Justin Timberlake song and that video I was mentioning, it's like vanilla ice cream and chocolate syrup.
I want to give a couple honorable mentions.
Wait, before you mention the whiskey that comes with it, I just want to say this. Don't say it yet, but if the whiskey being paired with that is not Jack Daniels or... Oh, you said Uncle Nearest. You already said
it's
it.
Uncle
Okay,
Nearest,
all right, we're good. Go ahead.
I just want to give a couple honorable. What about John Pardee, Heartache Medication? That's a pretty good one.
That is a pretty good.
That's a pretty good. Single drinking doubles.
She's acting single. I'm drinking doubles. Classic country song.
Classic song.
That is a great. Carrie Stewart. Oh yeah. How about Drowns the Whiskey while you're in country? Jason Aldean. Your memory drowns the whiskey.
I don't know that one.
Great whiskey song. I don't know. There's a lot of great whiskey songs. I wonder. We should do our own list for other spirits.
Oh yeah.
Like
What about a whole
tequila
bunch of
songs
songs
and
by
rum
Motorhead? By the way,
Pretty much anything by Motorhead would probably qualify for the list.
If you had to pick the number 1 song for tequila, what would it be?
For tequila, probably at this exact point
Think
in
about
time.
it. Think of the classics.
At this point in time, probably Tequila by Dan and Shay because it's been such a huge hit. But you got Tequila by the Tramps, right? Right.
which I can't think of without thinking of Pee Wee Herman doing his dance. Because that's just our generation.
But there's, what is that old song, Jose Cuervo, You Are a Friend of Mine?
Margarita.
Margaritaville, does that count? That would almost have to be
It's
number one.
it's another tequila sunrise.
Yeah. Oh, Tequila Sunrise. That's a great tequila. Yeah. So we could stay at this for a while. What about rum?
Oh.
There's got to be a Captain Morgan song out there.
How do you deal with the Drunken Sailor?
Anything by Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah. And how do you deal with the Drunken Sailor?
How do you deal with the Drunken Sailor?
I think there's a Brothers Osborne song called Rum for country music fans. But yeah, and rum may be a little underrepresented.
Tequila makes my clothes fall off. Did you already say that?
Oh yes, that's who was that? Was that John Anderson?
Man, you predating me, man.
I don't know. Anyway, all right, let's take a break. We're going to return with some drinking news. We're going to return with some more tasting. In fact, if I am not mistaken, we have a little stout to taste here, my friends. A Perennial Artisan Ales. Intentionally Indulgent Imperial Stout.
I am down like 4 flat tires.
All right, so we will do that. And Chris has some mystery spirit for us to taste that he has refused to show me so far. So I'm very excited. Smoking and Toasting, we'll be right back. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. This is the program that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Our guest is the illustrious Chris Hart, host of the Whiskey Neat podcast, the man behind the Whiskey Social, and I want to make sure we don't forget to tell people how to get tickets and all that stuff.
Sure,
so we'll get to that. We'll get to that coming up, because the Social, if you are in the Houston area or can travel to the Houston area for it, should not be missed. And he'll be expanding this around the world soon. So I just want to say, whenever you do Whiskey Social like Bermuda, I want to come.
Sure. Yeah. Barbados.
Barbados. Yeah.
Well, we have plans for a rum fest eventually as well.
I can't wait.
The Agave Social is going to be intense.
That's going to be awesome.
It's going to be sick, and
You're going to have it intense?
Yeah. We're purposely capping it at like 500 people.
Oh yeah.
For the first year, just to get a feel.
Well, because it's tequila, and people get a little crazy with tequila and mezcal.
Yeah. Well, and Sotol. We'll have all kinds of things there. So. I'm excited just to get it started, because Houston doesn't have one we've got a Margarita Fest, but it's a shit show. It's a drunk show. Everyone's getting hammered,
Yeah.
I'd like a bit
It's
more.
about the tasting.
It's about
sophistication.
Yeah, we have a minimum credit score in order to.
Yes, but the minimum score is like 90. So you'll be able to get in. All right, Ian, the time has come for drinking news.
Drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. You haven't heard this whole song yet, have you?
Yeah, I have.
Oh. Now it's time for drinking news. A Florida man with one arm said he had a gator for a pet. When I asked about his absent arm, he said,
I had to take my gator to the vet.
Drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all. Welcome to Drinking News. It is our segment on the program where we bring you a song that sometimes is, but not always, about drinking, but is always probably best enjoyed if you have been drinking, and we have, so we're ready for Drinking News. A Japanese man...
Well, that's different.
Yeah, no Florida today. A Japanese man almost...
Do you suppose that Japan has their own version of Florida?
No, you have to let him finish, because what he was about to say is a Japanese man in Florida the other day.
That would be really interesting to know if Japan had their own area
I'm
that was
sure
their Florida.
Yeah, it's called China.
That'd be a good country song. What's your Florida?
What's your Florida?
What's your Florida? All right. A Japanese man almost died recently while involved in an act of, let's just say,
Self-love.
Self-love, according to the medical case report. Doctors claim that the 51-year-old single man, who they didn't identify, enjoyed pleasuring himself several times each day.
Okay, where's the problem? How did he die? Because I need to know this. I'm asking for a friend.
Right now, I'm a little worried.
Because his habit nearly killed him on one particular recent occasion after he suffered a stroke.
Oh, no.
Just moments after the...
well, to be fair, there's usually strokes involved.
The big finish, yes. The NHS says
So he stroked himself to a stroke?
Basically. The NHS says the stroke that the man suffered can be triggered by having sex, or, less excitingly, by coughing or going to the bathroom. The man was instantly struck down with, and I'm quoting from the article here, I can't make this stuff up, thunderclap headaches after he experienced the big O, and later even began vomiting. The man did survive and is now reported to be in excellent condition, which I suppose means he can resume his hobby.
Thunderclap headaches.
Dr. Daniel Walsh, a consultant, a cerebrovascular neurosurgeon at King's Hospital NHS Foundation Trust, told the Daily Mail Online that the ruptured aneurysm, which caused the patient's stroke, is thought to be linked with a sudden increase in blood pressure. Makes some sense, right?
So you can stroke yourself into a stroke.
So this is something characteristic, he says, of sexual activity. Strokes have been known to induce paralysis, difficulties in speech, and even blindness, which I guess means that, in a sense, my mom may have been right all those years ago with her solemn warning. And come to think of it, I don't see nearly as well as I used to. So there's that. I believe, I can't quite make the letters out, but I believe this next sentence reads, And that's your drinking news.
Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
By the way, normally with drinking news, we have an accompanying news photo. I didn't have one of this gentleman since he wasn't identified by name.
That was PC.
Yeah. Well, so please enjoy this photo of a rock formation somewhere in the world that will accompany today's drinking news.
Now it's time for drinking news.
Photo. I don't know if it's come across yet, Chris. Have you seen it?
Not yet. I'm looking.
Yeah, it'll get there.
My estimation. I don't want to ruin the joke, but I think I know what it's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, you probably will have seen this before.
The video's always
Yep, that's about right. That's about right. It's a little girthier than I expected.
Hey, honey, let's go sightseeing. Let's do some beer. Thank you, Ian. What do you up to?
You ain't got to tell me twice.
Yeah, excuse me. So this is from Prairie Artisan Ales. We've had their beers on the show before.
Oh man, their beers
and they have been
almost always amazing.
I'm sorry, I misspoke.
I don't know.
Not Prairie Artisan
But
Ales.
this
It's
is
from
not Prairie,
Perennial.
right?
Perennial
Perennial.
Artisan Ales. But we have had their beers on before. Oh my God, Ian, did you just pour a can of motor oil into that cup?
I love this already.
Oh man, that looks thick.
Like
and
just the
viscous.
viscosity
Yes.
of this makes me smile.
Well,
I'm
it's nice to
already
smile.
creating expectations.
Yeah. Chris, while he's pouring, tell us about tickets for the Whiskey Social.
Yeah, so of course I start choking as soon as you ask me a question.
If you haven't bought them yet, you should be buying them
Yeah,
now.
so the Houston Whiskey Social takes place November 6th at the Citadel. Same place it's been the last 3 years. This
That's
is
a
our
great venue, by the
It
way.
is a great
It's
location.
a great
yes.
venue. They're incredible to work with. Massive shout out to them. And eventually, we're working on booking a couple of comedy shows there. I love comedy. I love humor. There is no boundaries.
I can't tell it by talking to you.
Oh, of course. Any joke is an okay joke in my book, especially if it is a joke. So we're working on booking some comedy shows there. But November 6th, the Houston Whiskey Social is going to be taking place here. You can find tickets at HoustonWhiskeySocial.com. That's whiskey with the E. And, of course, search it on Eventbrite.
HoustonWhiskeySocial.com.
Or just Google Houston Whiskey Social. We are very Googleable, as they say.
Googleable.
Yeah,
Googleable.
yeah. There are certain. I've dealt with this with bands before, where bands have asked me for advice about how to get bigger or whatever. And I said, well, to start with, your name is ungoogleable. So if you have too common a name, if your band name is too common a thing, people aren't going to be able to find you on the on the Google. So,
Yeah.
But you guys are very Googleable.
Very Googleable, and I just did some math. We were a little nervous about the event, to be honest, the first event back.
First year back after COVID, yeah.
Yeah, so we didn't skip a year. We did push it back 6 months, but the last year during early bird ticket sales, we sold a little over 400 tickets, maybe closer to 500. And as of right now, we are about 1,400 tickets.
Wow.
And early bird tickets just ended. So
So
we've almost sold as much as we sold last year in terms of sales.
right in terms of total sales.
Total sales. The event has just. I mean, people are dying to get out of their house.
And you have more. I think that's really true. People are dying.
absolutely.
That's the reason airlines are packed right now.
Yeah, I could have made a COVID joke. I'm not going to.
That's
yeah,
good.
so the event is November 6th. Tickets are on sale now. You can get your tickets there. It will be. We will have literally twice the amount of vintage, old, super rare bottles than we've ever had. I'm beyond excited.
I mean, I'm not saying I'm looking forward to this, but I put in a request to my brew club, which traditionally does our November Fest on the first weekend of November every year. We moved it a week.
That's great.
Wow. There was some concern
I
about
love
it
it.
being opening hunting season.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't care. Hunting season or Thanksgiving, because the next week is
Right.
the beginning
Have
of
you guys
Thanksgiving.
tried this beer?
I've just
Yeah,
had
just
some
tried
of
it.
it here.
This is freaking amazing.
So we talk a lot about different
coffee.
About different beers, particularly porters and stouts, having a chocolatiness to them. But this one, the chocolate to me reminds me of chocolate syrup, like you put on ice cream.
It's a little ridiculous.
it's-
There's a
it's
little
just-
bitter to it, which I enjoy, and a
Which
little
is kind of
You
the
were
coffee.
skeptical at first.
there's a little spice to it that I actually kind of like too.
Was it you or you that was skeptical when he was reading the ingredients?
Oh no, this
No,
is right up my alley.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
I might have been joking about it.
I must have misunderstood you. I thought you were skeptical. No, but there's a you mentioned Prairie Artisan Ales, and I find their beers to be a bit soy saucy and a bit overrated, in my opinion.
Sometimes, usually,
They can be
most of their
delicious,
beers
though.
are good.
They can be.
but
There's
no.
been some epic ones I've had. Mm-hmm. But the moment my wife...
They shoot high, but they don't always hit it.
Right.
No. Can I see the
But
can?
this is
When you get-
Perennial, and they're using Blueprint Coffee and a collaboration with Second Shift Brewing.
Guys, that is delicious.
Where are they based out of?
Perennial Artisan Ales are based out of...
St. Louis, Missouri.
yeah.
Wow.
Sorry, I thought I had it in my notes. I didn't.
Freaking delicious.
It's good.
It really is.
I love the
think-
coffee, and there's a little touch of sweetness from the cake.
Yeah, and it's got that chocolatiness that is my favorite kind of chocolate. That the chocolate's almost gritty, which I love.
Well, it
syrup.
says Imperial Stout with coffee, chocolate, and vanilla beans. And then on the side of the can it says, according to the Surgeon General, women should not drink alcoholic beverages during pregnancy because of the risk of birth defects.
You know, if you're going to read that whole thing, my glass is going to be empty for way too long. So why don't we?
It's
do
like
a
they all
little-
get the same guy to write these labels.
Less talking, more pouring there, Ian.
I'm sorry. Your glass is right
Thank
up
you.
here.
Yeah, it's got apparently some sort of a hole in it because
I don't want
bit
you
of
to
a
get drangry on me.
this is a really delicious.
You
beer.
understand what drangry is, right? When you're out of your drink. It's kind of like hangry, but what happens when you're drangry is you don't have a full vessel to keep your hand open, so it starts turning into a fist. That's
Right,
the first thing that happens.
and that would be a bad thing. No, I would just say we've had plenty of great Imperial Stouts on the show, some porters and some different things that have had,
this is
that have
outstanding.
been big into the coffee and chocolate realm, and this one is as good as any of them that we've had. How do you think this would have done? Several weeks ago, we did our Stout blind taste test. How do you think this would have fared?
Oh,
in
this
that?
would have been up there pretty high.
Yeah.
Who won?
So
Well, we each had different favorites. Do you remember what yours was?
I don't. Not
See,
off
I
the
don't
top of my
remember
head.
right off the top
There's
of my
so
head
many
either.
beers that go
Yeah.
by on a blur
I
on this
just
show.
remember the last time I was here, we did the hard pour taste test.
Yes, I remember that.
That's what that
a lot of
was.
fun.
That's
And
gotta be 20
and
episodes ago.
You know what we
referenced
figured
you.
out on the hard pour taste test
Most people can't tell the difference.
is not only most people can't tell the difference, but Montucky Cold Snacks still sucks.
Yeah, that's right. Doesn't matter how you pour it. Hard, soft,
I'll be
in
honest with you.
between.
I'm surprised you hate it because to me, I'm like, it's $1 a beer, and for $1 beer, I didn't hate it.
Now,
Lone Star.
I will tell you, though, what we tried that we actually did like was the Montucky hard cider.
Yeah.
And we're not big fans of hard cider in general, but we both kind of had to admit that was pretty good.
Yeah, I to me, as long as you
I'm
don't.
sorry, not did I say hard cider? What I meant was hard seltzer.
Hard seltzer, yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
Make it
Yeah,
make
yeah,
sense.
seltzer. Hey, speaking of cider, you guys ever been to Cidercade?
Oh, dude.
It's great,
Yes, it's awesome.
right? It's awesome, man. It's a great little.
It's awesome.
they're
And
only
that
mentioning-
the cider that they have with the currant and
See, I like their peach tea.
so
they do a
good,
peach
so
tea
good.
cider, and that's right up my alley.
have you been to Cidercade?
I have not, no.
No, it's an arcade for adults.
I like
You
it.
pay $10, and all the games are free. And then they
And
make
then they bring you cider?
they make cider that you buy there. You drink their cider, and they got a peach tea cider.
The
and
dark side, that's the one I like. It's black.
fantastic.
It's like
all
black
the-
cherry and currant.
all
Yeah,
the
so
old
good.
arcades from the '80s, new arcades, skee ball, golden tea.
and not a bunch of cheap games. Like all the real deal games, wide open and no
Nice.
lines.
I'm digging
What
it.
was popular in your era? No offense.
Oh, it's pinball.
Pinball.
Yeah, no.
They got a whole row of them.
I remember back when we used to hit this
We
little
got the
ball
old
up
pinball.
down the pinball machine.
Ever since he was a young kid, he played the silver
Well,
ball.
okay, so greatest pinball game I've ever played, I'm not kidding, was the Elton John Pinball Wizard pinball game.
I do remember
That
that.
is
I've
an
played
You
it.
awesome
win,
game.
you get a popper.
Yeah. Okay, that was funny. All right, so highly recommended on the Perennial Artisan Ales intentionally indulgent.
This is fantastic.
Stout. All right, Chris, you have one more.
One more thing for
one
you.
more thing for us to
One more
taste,
thing
don't
for you.
you?
Is this the last segment?
Well, we have a little quick goodbye segment, but this is the last major segment.
All right. So, one of the things that I want to do for Gregarious Grump is I just want to find good spirits, put them into a bottle to show outside the realm that bourbon's not the only thing out there. We got great rums, great tequilas, great blah blah blah.
Yeah, and you know what I really love about the stuff that you do is it really is driven by the passion for good things. It's not you're not just out here going, okay, what does the market want, and so I'm going to come up with something,
touch it.
carefully. carefully plotted to meet a market demand and make money. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with making money, and I hope that you do make lots of money. Adam, pass your Glencairn over here. I hope that you do make lots of money doing these, but that's not why you're doing it, and I love that.
No, absolutely
You're
not.
doing it out of passion.
You
for
were
the
very
juice.
cleverly covering the label the whole time.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I
I was
still
trying.
haven't seen what this is.
So this is
it's
Flor,
a clear spirit.
And listen, I'm not great at accents, but this is Flor del Desierto. It's a sotol made from
It's a
a
flower of
cousin
the
to the
desert.
asparagus plant.
Flor del Desierto, yes, which I believe is Spanish for
Flower of the desert.
Floor of the Desierto.
Yeah. You nailed it.
Okay.
You nailed it.
So the plant age is about
baby.
18 to 22 years old. It's wild harvested.
All right, so explain for those who don't know what a sotol is.
So you've got mezcal and you've got tequila,
Right.
both agave based. Sotol is made from the Daisy Lyrion plant, which is a cousin to the asparagus
yeah.
plant. It's a glass rested, low proof distilled, just beautiful, fragrant, earthy. It tastes
It's
like
almost like a combination of a gin and a tequila on the nose, right?
when you go for a walk in the woods and you come across some rocks and it's been a fresh rain and it smells like petrichor, the smell of earth and wet pavement. That's exactly what this is. It is a tremendously beautiful, fantastic spirit. And I realized we've been talking to, me and my partner Carlos have been talking to a few producers in Mexico. We have two pillars: find beautiful things to put in the bottle and do it for cheaper than anyone else.
Okay.
And that way, it's because right now everything is raising crazy prices.
Right. You're seeing tequilas
Bourbon,
and
tequila,
and
everything.
bourbon.
Tesla
yeah.
comes out with a $300 monstrosity and blah blah blah. So we talked to some producers, and we can actually pay the producers, support locally, twice the amount of money in some cases, and still have it on the shelf cheaper by 50% of our nearest competitor.
So is that because they're just marking the prices up like crazy? Is
Am I
that
allowed to touch this yet?
Yeah, go ahead and touch it. Sorry. It usually means that there's more hands in the cookie jar than there needs to be.
right?
So sometimes you got a broker
Oh,
involved.
it does have that fresh, like it just rained and I walked
forest
outside.
rain sort of a vibe to it.
Sometimes you have a broker involved. Sometimes you have an importer involved, and that right there can take up 40 to 70% of the cost.
So, Chris, let me ask you this: you're going to put out your own sotol. What does the market for sotol even look like?
Here's the thing: I don't give a shit.
yeah,
This
okay,
tastes-
I love that.
So we're gonna do it in
This
small,
tastes like fresh earth. And this is so good.
and pine needles and
Yes,
and
yes.
leaves.
Yeah,
If we do a small batch run of 500 to 1,200 bottles, and we send it to 12 new states, because Gregarious has now got distribution in 12 new states. We've got cognac coming. We've got rum coming. We're talking about maybe a few dozen cases in each state. That's fine. It'll move it. If it doesn't move, it moves. But here's the other thing: we want to actually put and showcase the actual producer more prominently. Not just Gregarious Grump. This isn't our product.
right.
We want to pay them more than what you normally pay them. Cut out unnecessary costs. There's no sales reps. It's just me and Carlos. And then feature the producer and the information about the product. So I just want to do cool things in the bottle.
So this, for lack of a better way to
This-
describe it,
Just smells and
If-
tastes like the bank of a stream on a hot
if
day.
you
This
took a
is
very
River rock. Throw some river rocks in your mouth.
That's so.
if you took
so
a very
good.
floral gin and crossed it with a mezcal, I think that's the best way I could describe what this is. It's got some of the smokiness of the mezcal, but it's got that huge floral. It's not really juniper, but it's very pine and
You're spot on.
foresty.
It's very earthy.
Very earthy.
It's very,
yeah.
they take
And
plants.
it's delicious.
They take plants that have been, in this particular case, this was a 200-liter batch. 200 liters. You're talking about less than 250 bottles. Might as well be a single barrel. And they did, the plant's age is between 18 and 22 years old. So it's not just some mass-produced no, there's like
Right.
wild.
This is an artisanal.
It's
thing,
artisanal. It's beautiful. It's delicious.
And,
I'm
and
a
tell
whiskey.
me again about this plant.
Yeah, so if you look it up, the Daisy Lyrion plant, it's a cousin to it looks almost like an agave, but a bit more spiky, and it's got this thing. There's, I'm a whiskey expert. and I love to drink.
This tastes
But
like
I'm
a
more-
lizard sunbathing on a hot rock. This is amazing.
And you mean that in the best possible way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love this, and I'm more of a, I would say more of an aficionado. But I can taste something, tell it's amazing. I can put it in a bottle to showcase how beautiful it is, and we're all learning. And I plan to become a Sotol expert in due time. But until then, I'm more of an aficionado.
Will you be, when you reach that point, will you be our smoking and toasting Sotol expert?
I won't, because I think I'd be murdered. I'm not even white. I'm pink. Like, I think that person needs to be someone representative of the culture.
I don't know if Liliana's on the show notes today, but I would love to hear what she thinks about Sotol. I know she's very knowledgeable about mezcal, but this is kind of like the third cousin. If mezcal is the second cousin to tequila, this is sort of like the third cousin.
And then you've got Rasilia, which is probably closer to third cousin or,
Cousin
twice
hit.
removed. Yeah. Look, it's just a beautiful, flavorful, unaged spirit.
It really is.
And everything about it is delicious and crazy. It speaks to terroir. Terroir is a big open for debate.
You can get that from
this
the earthiness
literally
of it.
tastes like dirt in the best way that I can
know.
ever.
It's a compliment.
Yeah.
And that I can ever tell. I don't even know how to describe this to someone without just telling them they're putting dirt and
Liquid
rocks in their
dirt.
mouth, and it's delicious.
I have a couple glasses of this, and I try to kiss my wife, and she's like, no. It tastes like you've been eating dirt in the yard.
My guess is she probably reacts that way most of the time.
yeah.
Anyway.
To me, in her defense, it happens every time I try to kiss her.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to take a break and come back to wrap things up. But Chris Hart, it's always such a joy to have you on the show, man. We love giving you a hard time, particularly when you're not here to defend yourself.
Yeah.
But seriously, you are a great friend, and we just want to do everything we can to support you and the amazing things that you're doing, because I just love where it comes from, because it comes from the heart and from the palate. You know what I mean?
I appreciate that. And for those who are watching, if you know specific episodes where these two jerks are talking shit, please put the timestamps in the comments, and I'll get back to.
I can send you that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I have a file list. I can send it to you. It's on an Excel spreadsheet.
We
Are we going to hit
actually-
this Talisker on the way out?
Yes, we
We
are,
actually,
baby.
as a requirement to the show, we have a few minutes of Chris bashing we have to do in every
Yeah.
episode.
You wrote a song and everything.
So a
Chris
little,
bashing,
a little
Chris
bit
bashing.
of a little bit of Talisker and a goodbye coming up at Smoking and Toasting. We'll be right back.
Chris bashing. He's losing his hair, and he's a piece of shit.
That Chris was talking.
It's so.
Oh my God,
Alan's ears are burning.
Alan, are you okay, brother? We love you.
He didn't pay taxes. Sorry. Can you cut that out?
Welcome back at Smoking and Toasting. One of the things I love about this show is if you make it to our final segment, you get to see us in our most sort of natural environment, after having a few drinks.
Oh,
is
yeah.
what I mean.
For sure.
Yeah, which is a wonderful thing. Speaking of a few drinks, Ian, we actually haven't gotten to this Talisker that you brought, and I'm so
did bring
excited. Tell me about this whiskey.
This is an Isle of Skye whiskey. This is Talisker single malt Scotch whiskey. I don't know a ton about it. I could read up on it and all that stuff, but I will tell you this. We just opened this bottle, but I'm familiar with it already. Mm-hmm. This is the epitome of delicate peat.
Yeah,
And which is a weird thing to say because
so
most
let me
of the
ask you
time
this.
peat is not delicate.
Right.
But this is delicate
So
and
if
beautiful.
somebody is just taking their first steps into peated whiskey, is something that's more delicate like this a good place to start?
Yes, this will introduce
Because
you
it's
to the
not like
flavor.
knocking you on your ass with like Oban or something,
Yeah, you don't want to start with Ardbeg,
Right,
That's,
exactly. Lafroig.
My wife and I spent a few days on Isla, and I love Isla. I love Lafroig. I love Bunnahabhain. I love Brookline.
I love all those things.
Bunnahabhain is awesome.
It's a special place. However, I've never been. I've always wanted to go. The Isle of Skye, where Talisker is. This particular island is world renowned as being one of the most beautiful places in Scotland. Waterfalls and rivers and mountains, and the whole thing is like this gorgeous escape of civilization. And over the past year, I would love to fucking escape.
Boy, you are not kidding. Has it ever
this-
sounded more awesome?
I'm going to tell you, when you take a sip of this, like this to me is the epitome of delicate peat, like right off the bat, and then it just kind of folds into this chocolate and caramel, and
Yes,
then fruitiness. It just keeps kind of
100%.
evolving on the palate. It's such a
100%.
it's a bizarre thing overall, but
Pete-
in a great way.
Peat is the first thing, then chocolate and caramel, and then fruitiness. Like it's almost like in stages, like stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. you
Yeah,
know?
this is an emotional ride through whiskey, is what it is.
And you know what it does for me is it almost transports me to that fogginess of Scotland.
Lots of greens.
Yes.
Lots of fog.
Yeah.
Not a lot of sunshine, and the worst food you've ever tasted.
A lot of dampness and bad food.
Can we
But
put some
boy-
salt on this?
But boy, is the whiskey
just horrible teeth, horrible
Yeah.
food.
Listen,
no sunshine. I love it.
If you're going to Scotland, pack one of those little things of, those little salt and pepper, things that you can pick up at the grocery store.
I mean, hell,
Pack
bring a
that in your
Lunchable.
stuff.
It'll still be better than what they got.
Haggis. Come on, you're not into haggis?
So Nick, I think it was Nick. Yeah, Nick asked, is Sotol plentiful enough here to distill Sotol? Yeah. Okay. So yes, in Texas, Sotol does grow here, and the very first person to ever distill it was a white guy named Mike G, who has his own show.
It sounds like a rapper.
Yeah, no, he's not a rapper. He's a really great guy. His name is Mike Groner, but he goes
Okay.
by, he doesn't like his last name. He has a show called Show de V with Mike G. It's the oldest podcast in Texas that's been around covering spirits. He's a tremendously fun guy, and he's a Sotol Mexican spirit tequila expert in all regards.
We should get Mike G to come
Nick,
guest on the show.
Next time he comes down, I'll connect with him. Mike G's incredible.
Yeah.
But he was the first one to distill commercially, although it was a very, very tiny production. Very, very tiny production. The most famous Texas producer of Sotol is Desert Door, although they're very controversial. They're like the
And why are they controversial?
They're like the Nat Sherman of Sotol. One, they're making it sound like it's a Texas spirit. They don't really represent the Mexican history, and so there's a lot of controversy around the way that they present the spirit.
I love that Nat Sherman has become a descriptor.
Oh, hey man,
for
they don't
something-
exist anymore. So I
for
can
something that's not quite on the level. You know what I mean? Well, they do exist because they're being put out now.
It's interesting
by
that
another
Nick's
company.
asking us because he's the kind of guy in our club. He's known as Duke Nukem, he's the kind of guy who will go find this and actually make a batch just for giggles.
Sotol is a tremendously fun spirit. But Talisker, listen, the whole concept of terroir and single malts, actually, Glenfiddich started the term single malt, but Talisker, Diageo, Glenkinchie, I'm trying to think of all of them, but there's literally the 6 regions of Scotland was all started by Diageo's Talisker's parent company, to promote the different regions and how Auchentoshan, Glenkinchie, Talisker, Lagavulin, all of those brands, their parent company was trying to showcase how each region has its own notable
Flavor, yeah.
Very
much.
Talisker is a classic malt of Scotland, and it's absolutely one of my favorites.
And it's incredibly unique, though.
It's so good.
It's just.
By the way, you mentioned Glenfiddich.
Yeah.
Did you know about this? Glenfiddich.
First of all, I know everything, but go ahead.
Okay, then obviously you're in the know about Glenfiddich Distilleries launching a fleet of trucks that runs on whiskey waste.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
I think it's
pretty cool.
absolutely awesome. I mean, drinking and driving finally makes sense, right?
So let me tell you how genius William Grant and Sons are.
Yeah.
Their brain trust, whatever's got the wheels turning to do projects for their brands, is off the charts, the most creative. It's like they all did mushrooms and was like, let's do this.
I love that.
At the Whiskey Social 2 years ago, they brought out an 18-wheeler cement truck. But instead
remember that.
Instead of the cement truck container,
Yes, that was awesome.
it was a cocktail shaker.
Yeah.
The only way you come up with that idea is through mushrooms and acid and
Yes.
like
And Talisker single malt.
yeah.
Like that conversation always starts with, it'd be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. And by the way, there's a lot of those conversations that go absolutely nowhere. So to me, the real talent is the discernment to know which of those conversations that start out with, would be cool, are worth pursuing, right?
One of the
That's why ideas are day 1 and decisions are day 2.
Exactly. One would hope.
That's genius.
One would hope. Yeah.
One of the one of the downsides of being part of a massive corporation like Diageo is you play it safe always.
Right.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
You're
you got a
gonna
lot of
make
money.
money if you
yeah,
do
you got a
this.
lot of money on the line. Sure.
But no one is more creative when it comes to innovating the Scotch category than William Grant and Glenfiddich. They have always had a new idea, a new approach. Let's try this. Let's try that.
well, like their IPA cask whiskey, if you remember.
IPA,
that was
their
fantastic.
XX. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You guys have had David Allardyce in here.
Yeah, of course.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
The
but-
fact that they hired that guy, he's a blast.
Right, yeah, but you're absolutely right. But I just want to say that's what I love about what you're talking about, what you're doing with Gregarious Grump and with your other endeavors here.
Yeah, what an
is
awful
it's-
name for a brand.
Right, but it's
That's a beautiful
but
name.
It's
It's perfect.
awesome, though, and that's what I love is that you're able to still do things on that. Wouldn't it be cool if basis? And I think that's a wonderful thing. Well, Chris, we're fans of yours, and we appreciate you being on our show and acting as our resident whiskey expert. We are huge supporters of the Whiskey Social. We encourage everybody to get involved. And if you are a listener who is not in the greater Houston area, just wait, because Chris is coming. They're going to do a Whiskey Social in your town, and it's going to be awesome. You're one of those guys that's going to be gone all the time because
Yeah.
you're going to be out doing socials everywhere.
Yeah, well, it's a passion, and I appreciate everything that's happened so far. We're incredibly blessed, but man, am I tired.
And if you want great interesting conversation while people drink while they're having it, check out Whiskey Neat because
Whiskey Neat's a lot
Check
of
out
fun.
It's a
Whiskey Neat on
lot of
ESPN.
fun. Yeah.
And then, of course, y'all come on down to Gulf Coast Distillers. All of the gregarious stuff's going to be based out of there in the interim as we build out the East End Distilling Company and flourish this idea of independent bottles in Houston. So,
I don't care what Alan Denny says about you. I think you're all right.
well, to be fair, I don't care what Alan Denny says about anything.
Well, there you go.
So
So
it's,
that makes it work. Ian, anything else you need to get off your chest here before we wrap up?
I like whiskey, and now I like Satul.
Well, this is a perfect show
That's
for you. to be
my
on.
deep and meaningful moments for the day.
Thank you to Mary for putting all the booking stuff together. Thank you to Adam on the Wheels of Steel,
Massive
making
thank
it
you to
all
both.
produce. And
Mary's
Chris was just
incredible.
kidding; he wouldn't kill you. And thank you to everyone who makes it through, especially those of you who make it through to our final segment. I'm always amazed that people do. I read something this week that said it's something like 65% of people never make it past the first 10 minutes of a podcast. So if you're still here,
And
we
comedy-
salute you.
Absolutely. In comedy specials, it's 27 minutes of the first hour.
No kidding.
No one, why are we doing hour comedy specials when no one lasts longer than 27 minutes?
Well, didn't what was the Comedy Central used to do the half-hour comedy hour?
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
a brilliant idea.
And it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, brilliant idea. Well, we appreciate all of you who are still with us here. We've enjoyed having great spirits and beers and talking cigars, and we'll be back to do it again next week. As a matter of fact, next week, a great wrong is righted here on Smoking and Toasting. And I just have to pause because the last time we righted a great wrong, it was when we had St. Arnold Brewing on the show. And Chris told me before the show he had St. Arnold news that he was going to break on the show, and we never got to it.
Yeah.
So before we go, you got to break your St. Arnold
You
news.
just reminded me. Now, just to be clear, you're not announcing what next week is, right?
Oh, I'm going to say who's going to be
Okay.
here, yes.
Does it have to do with a flower?
No.
Okay. So St. Arnold has been doing a lot with our distillery, and we just took some of their beer, their delicious beer, and distilled the shit out of it. So there's going to
Okay.
be a St. Arnold whiskey coming pretty soon.
So you used their mash bill.
their actual beer and,
Yeah.
and distilled it into whiskey.
Wow, I'm so excited for this.
I
Nice.
cannot wait.
I'm so
It's-
excited.
it's
So,
aer-
and you heard it here first on the show, ladies and gentlemen.
Absolutely. We have a great partnership with them. They seem to be doing a lot of great things. And they're one of are they Houston's oldest brewery?
They are Texas' oldest craft brewery.
Yeah. Big
Yeah.
fan.
Yeah, we're big fans of them here as well.
Absolutely.
And we realized about 200 shows in, we'd never had them on, and we're able to right that wrong. And
We've had them twice now. Yeah.
and we write another great wrong on next week's show when No Label Brewing makes their first appearance here on
No
Smoking
Label,
and Toasting.
finally.
Finally, yes, and this is a brewery. You and I have been enjoying their beers
Yeah.
for years.
Are we fans?
I am. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think they're awesome. They're from Katy. Katy, Texas.
Boo.
You're booing Katie?
Yeah, just in general.
Yeah.
I boo Katie traffic.
That's an awful place.
I would boo Katie except for the fact that No Label is there,
I'm
which
actually
makes me like it better.
Huge fan of No Label.
Yeah,
That's what I was wondering. I thought, what's the beef there?
No, there's no beef. We've just never managed to get them on. And we will do that on next week's show. As a matter of fact, scheduled to appear is Tom Painter from No Label Brewing. So we're very excited about this. These guys make great beers. And so we're really psyched about that. Want to thank you again, Chris, for being here, and want to invite you to be tuned in 2 weeks from today when we'll be doing a special long-distance Skype interview with Knucklebones. They're the guys who have put this AC/DC beer together.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
And
I'm excited to hear it.
We've got some of the AC/DC beer we'll be here to sample. So you're welcome to come on back and sample with us.
Y'all gonna make me learn some AC/DC songs on the
ukulele? Yeah. Isn't there an album somewhere of AC/DC songs?
I mean, I was jamming the Have a Drink on Me riff.
Isn't there like a band that did AC/DC bluegrass covers?
Oh, Hasty Dixie.
Thank you. I knew it was out there. Yeah.
Have you never listened to that? You didn't even make a face.
No.
Oh, you need to look up Hasty Dixie.
Yeah, they do AC/DC covers all bluegrass. It's pretty awesome.
You got my wheels turning. I've got an idea, but I need to check some things first.
Okay.
And I'll run it by you off air.
All right, fair enough.
All right.
And thank you to everybody for being here for part of the show. We cannot tell you how much we appreciate you hanging out with us. Thanks to Liliana, our tequila expert, who was on the show notes with us today. And we will be back
Thanks,
with
Bruce and Duke and
Yes, absolutely.
Liliana
And Nick,
Absolutely.
even though he's calling
Wiki
something
Brian.
Yeah, and even Alan Denny, who was on the show notes. earlier,
No, take that one back.
Not him? Have a great week, my friends, and trust no one, and we'll see you next week. And I don't have anything left to toast with, but that will not stop me from going.
Cheers.
Wait a
Cheers.
minute.
I'm getting there.
Oh, yeah. More of that Talisker. That was delicious. Woo! I love you.